Tonight, a Republican senator is defending a text former Fox host Tucker Carlson sent to his producer in the hours after the January 6th insurrection. In that text, Carlson says he watched a video of men who were violently attacking a, quote, Antifa kid. And Carlson added, it's not how white men fight. He went on to say he found himself, for a moment, wanting the group to kill the kid, but then realized, quote, I'm becoming something I don't want to be. Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio saying the text was, quote, quite introspective and reflected well on the now fired Fox host, according to Insider. The New York Times reports that text alarmed Fox's board and played a role in Carlson's abrupt firing. Tom Foreman is out front.
In the turbulent wake of the January 6th insurrection, one incident caught the eye of then top Fox News host Tucker Carlson. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable. It's not how white men fight. That text to a producer was redacted in court documents, but shared with CNN from the Dominion voting system's lawsuit against Fox. And Carlson would later reject the notion of racism inflaming the crowd.
There's no evidence that white supremacists were responsible for what happened on January 6th. That's a lie.
But critics have long argued his rise to power was propelled by embracing white nationalist ideas. For example, dismissing the Black Lives Matter movement as a tool primarily for shaming whites.
A small group of highly aggressive, emotionally charged activists took over our culture. They forced the entire country to obey their will.
Saying immigrants will make the country, quote, poorer, dirtier, and more divided.
The Great Replacement?
And suggesting Democrats want to push aside white voters with a flood of minorities.
It's going to overwhelm our country and change it completely and forever. And our viewers should know that.
You know, over the years, he has trafficked an anti-immigration rhetoric. He has promoted the white nationalist Great Replacement theory. And this shouldn't really have come as a surprise, I think, to Fox News executives.
He is the most prominent vessel in America for white supremacist talking points.
For comedians, it all made Carlson an easy target, even as he denied understanding the accusations.
White nationalism. Let's be literal for a minute. What is that exactly?
I don't even know what white nationalism means, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you now.
Indeed, even up to the end of his time at Fox, he routinely argued for changes he said would help minority communities and dismissed the whole idea of a rising white nationalist movement.
This is a hoax, just like the Russia hoax. The combined membership of every white supremacist organization in this country would be able to fit inside a college football stadium.
Tom joins us now. Tom, is there any comment from Tucker Carlson tonight on any of this?
No, neither Carlson nor Fox News responded to our request for any further comment on the matter. This is obviously a subject that they'd both like to put very much behind them at this point. But make no mistake, there's not a real sign, no overt sign of backing away from this argument that has been forwarded so many times on Carlson's show, which is to say the nation was founded on white Christian values. And as long as everyone fits into that, then we can be a multidimensional, multicultural nation, which, of course, other groups say that's not the point at all. Pam?
Tom Foreman, thanks so much. And thank you for joining us tonight. See you back
First, though, the New York Times has obtained a text message it says was sent by Tucker Carlson to a Fox producer in the hours after rioters stormed the Capitol on January 6th. According to the Times, quote, the discovery of the message contributed to a chain of events that ultimately led to Mr. Carlson's firing. It contains a racist statement, and I'm going to read the text message as the Times quotes it. Quote, a couple of weeks ago, this is from Tucker Carlson, allegedly. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting in the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living S out of him. It was 3 against 1, at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly, I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Then, somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. The Antifa creep is a human being. Much as I despise what he says and does, much as I'm sure I'd hate him personally if I knew him, I shouldn't gloat over his suffering. I should be bothered by it. I should remember that somewhere somebody probably loves this kid and would be crushed if he was killed. If I don't care about those things, if I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is? Jim Rudenberg was one of the reporters on the Times piece, and I talked to him earlier. Jim, have you heard anyone either inside or outside Fox express surprise that according to that bombshell text message you obtained, that Carlson used racist and violent language in private communications? Obviously, I mean, the public saw some of his unredacted communication in the Dominion court filings, and certainly his now defunct show had a history of, pretty awful speech.
No one is saying that they're shocked in the context of his show that he would say something like this. Everything we're being told is very specifically in the context of what was happening at that moment. A jury is coming together in Delaware of diverse background. $1.6 billion are at stake. Tucker Carlson, who is a fraction of the evidence in this case, his show is not a major part of this case, is playing an outsized role. And now here is a text that is certain to, should it show up in court, inflame a jury. So it's all in the context of what's happening at that moment, less so whatever you may or may not see on his show.
Is it clear to you how much this particular message contributed not just to his firing, but also to the settlement that Fox made with Dominion? Because, I mean, as you said, the negotiators for Fox were already in settlement talks when the message was discovered.
Obviously, a lot is going on at this moment, and this is one thing that's going on at that moment. But let's think about this. The board is asking questions. There are shareholder lawsuits. The company at the same time doesn't want to see any of its stars have to testify, any of its stars be cross-examined. It doesn't want its its founding chairman, Rupert Murdoch, cross-examined. There are a lot of reasons they want to avoid this, but this text being an 11th hour discovery, certainly on the board, and we're told some executives, now this is coming to light in a series of talks that will result in a record settlement cost of $787.5 million, almost $1 billion. So we know the context. We're told it's definitely adding to pressure. It's in the mix. I think a lot is going on at this moment.
According to your reporting, as you said, it came to light during the discovery process of the case. Why would Fox lawyers not have alerted the Fox board to something so incendiary?
Well, that's a question that we still would like to know ourselves. This came up in deposition. Listen, the lawyers were already handling these materials get handed over, right? So lawyers know they exist. We're trying to figure out why that is. But I'm also told in speaking to other lawyers involved in similar cases, things fall through, these things happen. But let's find out. We're going to keep reporting to see, who did know about it, who didn't know about it, and more of what role it played. But either way, as we have it, this comes to light on the board level, late, and it's coming to light at a very critical time in these talks.
Yeah, it's extraordinary reporting. Jim Rudenberg, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Joining me now for more on this is CNN political commentator Van Jones, a former special advisor to President Obama. Van, I mean, when Tucker Carlson says it's not how white men fight, what goes through your mind?
Well, a couple things. First of all, history shows that's exactly how white men fight. If you want to talk about the history of brutalization of people of color, ganging up on people, lynching people. So his history is wrong, but it's not just his history, his heart's wrong. This is a moment of private self-reflection where you can see he's trying to pretend that he's enlightened. And even there, he's a disgusting little bigot. Even there, he's a disgusting little racist. Even there, he can't figure out that categorizing people in the way that he's categorizing them is wrong. And so, I think a lot of us had hoped that the Tucker Carlson you saw on TV was more of an act for ratings. But this shows, even in the privacy of his own home, talking to his friends, Tucker Carlson is a racist. He is a white supremacist. What is a white supremacist? It's somebody who thinks that white people are superior to black people. He thinks of the way that white people fight is superior to the way that black people fight. I mean, he's like, white men, I get, he imagines like, well, we engage in fisticuffs.
Right, well, that's the thing. It's so, first of all, I mean, the idea that Tucker Carlson knows anything about fighting or has ever been near a fight is ludicrous.
Pretty ludicrous.
And the idea, I mean, the implication is, well, it's black people who gang up on poor individuals, and that white people fight like old gentlemen with fisticuffs, in London Rules or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, but it gives you a sense of how deep this sickness goes. When we talk about white supremacy, it's a term you very, very rarely hear me say because it's such an incendiary term, but it has a meaning, and it means I think that white people and white culture is superior to non-white culture. And here is an instance of it. And in the tone of it, he's trying to be self-reflective, but he honestly believes that white people fight like, in fisticuffs, right, like in the cartoons, and that black people fight like savages, when in fact the history shows the opposite. And that is what we're dealing with.
The casualness with which he said that, I don't know why I found it stunning, but I did. And I imagine, like, does he say that to his children? I mean, is that something he would say to his kids? Like, oh, honey, no, white people don't fight like. I mean, how can he look at his family with that dirt in his mouth?
It's a glitch in the matrix that is shocking. It's also confirming. Like, if you're a person of color, you always feel like you're somehow being, brainwashed, or I forget the term, where it's like, you're being, people are telling you stuff is not true when you know it must be true. And when you have someone like Tucker Carlson on television and his massive movement behind him, this is still maybe the 1 or 3, 4, 2 top Republican voices in the country, and this is how he thinks. And so, when you're sitting here and you're like, guys, I think there's something, I think that racism and white supremacy is alive and well in the country, and people tell you, geez, you're being woke and shut up and come on, what are you talking about? It's 100 years ago. Listen, Tucker Carlson thinks that white people fight in a more civilized way than black people. Like, literally, that's what he thinks. And so, and that's obviously not true. Again, the history of lynching, the history of white mob violence is a bigger source of terror in the history of this country than anything has ever come out of, the 9/11 situation was horrible. But can you imagine 300 years of that every day? That's the terror that black people lived under out of fear of white mob violence. That's a history of our country that we are still trying to overcome. He missed the whole, he somehow missed all that. He somehow missed all that. And that is why I think this particular text, I think, probably did lead to a faster resolution of this case, because this is the kind of stuff that is just disgusting. It's disgusting without any, there's no upside on this text.
Yeah. Ben Jones, I appreciate you being with us. Thank you.